Goldmedal hesap Mr. Kurt Angle and Aaron Sheik. Because you suck, Teddy Bears. You suck, Dusty Rose. You suck, Randy Savage. You suck, Bill Boss. You suck, Rambler. You suck. Hold on to your word. You suck, Dan Maloney. You suck. What was his name? You suck, Eric Sims. You suck, Andre Joel. You suck, Fabulous Moolah. You suck, Jeff Robbins. You suck, skinny bastard. You suck, Hulk Hogan. You suck, his puppet Jimmy Hart. You suck, son of a bitch. Break your rag with a beer bottle. Watch your ass. You don't rock it. Break your rag. If you're the man, watch your ass.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the wrestling world brings to you its podcast champions of the world, Pedge the Maniac, Weapon X, the legends of wrestling.
Hell yeah, Legend of Wrestling is here. We are finally here. This is numero uno. Okay, this is episode 1. And you better keep up because this shit is going to take off before you know it.
Yeah, dummy.
Yeah, dummy. This is dedicated to wrestling and other sports. We're just going to have fun with it. We're going to see where it goes. And episode 1 is on the way. We got some news already. Nick Aldis is finally in WWE.
Finally.
The GM of Smackdown. I liked how how Trips was like, Adam Pearce is actually the GM of Raw, which is hilarious because he's been the GM of both shows for like the last year and a half. And at some point, what's her name was also a co-GM. The chick who she got fucking raided in Florida, like some stalker was raiding her house.
Who was Sonya Deville?
Sonya Deville.
Yeah.
Sonya Deville, and then she just naturally went back into wrestling.
Yeah. Shout out to Nick Aldis, by the way. Thankfully, you have now escaped the purgatory that they call NWA wrestling, where careers go to die. Welcome to the WWE, the big time.
Who's the champ now? Who's the NWA champ? Who is it? I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Yeah. I'll look that up. But in the meantime, and in between time,
where careers go to die.
Yeah, because if he was getting a push, we would know.
Yeah. Well, thank God, LA Knight is here.
Yeah,
in the WWE.
LA Knight.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you. So, as you guys know, our Instagram page has the legend himself, the mighty Aaron Sheik, the greatest champion of all time.
Cameraman, zoom it.
Oh, it's going to be zoomed into you right now. So tell him, Sheik.
You better listen to the leader. All of us has suplex you, put you in a camel clutch, break your back, fuck your ass, and then I'll make you to be humble. All contrary to you respect the Sheik.
You heard him. Yeah. Now let me talk to you, brother. The Sheik, he's been complaining and bitching and moaning. He hasn't been taking his vitamins. And now all he's been doing is complaining about me, Brian Blair, and every other person who's against what he says.
Fuck the vitamins. Fuck the prayers. Fuck you and have a good day.
That last part. Now the hilarious part is Weapon X is actually a Hulkamaniac at heart. But he's also a Sheik admirer, and of course now you know, if you didn't know, an impersonator of Sheik to a T.
The impersonator.
No one can match, nor have they even tried to impersonate the Sheik as adequately as what you just heard. So you're going to get a lot of that on this show, and that's why we have the legend himself as the cover of this podcast. The Iron Sheik.
Rest in peace, Iron Sheik.
Rest in peace to the legend. It's a great way to start this episode. So let's talk about it, man. What's been going on in the world of pro wrestling? We will not call it sports entertainment because Vince ain't in charge no more.
That is true. That is actually a relief to a lot of people in the wrestling industry. I know some people loved Vince, but for the most part, he did a lot of positive things to push the sport forward. But his time is now come to a close, and it couldn't have come to a close any sooner, because I'm excited for this new era with Triple H at the helm. And what is it now that the UFC has bought it out now?
That's
What
right,
is-
Endeavor, right?
Yes.
Endeavor has majority ownership now of WWE and UFC. This is not news, of course. Everyone knows this. But it actually went into effect. And as a result, Vince was asked to leave his position.
Was he asked, or did they approach him and say, "You're fired"?
That's probably, that would have been apropos. And if it was Trips that did that, that would have been hilarious, because it would have been like him marrying his daughter all over again on the screen. Now his daughter Steph is also gone. So she's not in charge. Shane has been dealing with tearing his quads. I think it runs in the family, the quad tears. They all have fucking torn their quads. What is going on?
Have they all torn their quads? Has Steph torn her quads?
She's torn something else. Vince.
No debate there.
Vince has torn both quads in one Royal Rumble match. What's it, Royal Rumble? No,
I don't think it was the Royal Rumble.
it was a Cena versus Batista match. That's where it happened, and it was the.
They tore them simultaneously.
He tore them simultaneously.
How the hell does that happen?
Exactly. Only Vince, right? He came into the ring because there was a controversy with the ending of the Cena Batista match all those years ago, because both refs came and raised the other wrestler's hand, and Vince came in pissed off, and then he had to be the final judge of the situation. With him sitting on his ass, everyone knows this. That was a hilarious moment. But of course, he tore his quads. Triple H tore his quads on the ring announcer when he was trying to give the
This was during the two-man power trip push when he was with Stone Cold in the tag team match.
That's right, and he tried to give the pedigree to Jericho. I believe it was Jericho. Was it Kurt?
I think it was Jericho.
But
I could be mistaken. If you're watching the podcast, correct us in the comments.
Yeah. We love getting corrected because we are humble. We are going to be humble.
Humble.
But yeah, it was so Trips tore his quad on that, and then he came back all those years later or like a year later with that fucking denim jacket. That was dope.
But that was in the old days of the WWE.
Yeah.
Now we're entering a new era with Trips at the helm. And what do we have up first during this new era that is approaching? We have the push of LA Knight. Yeah.
Let me talk to you. L.A. Knight. Yeah. How come he doesn't say dummy anymore? I wish he did.
I don't know. Maybe they're just saving that. He's putting it in his back pocket. That's where the button is. Like, dummy. Dummy.
Yeah, because that was such a TNA bit. I get it. They don't want to ever refurbish TNA stuff.
Well, I mean, TNA didn't really do justice by him anyway. I'm pretty sure LA Knight's glad that the dummy button has been retired for now.
That's right. So, as late as the latest developments with LA Knight has been on Smackdown with him coming out with John Cena supporting him. If you haven't seen that, watch it. It just happened on Smackdown last night. As of the time of this recording, and and Roman Reigns came back. I think he was injured on a shoot.
Yeah, he was injured.
Yeah.
I believe he was injured in the last match that he had. They said it wouldn't interfere with anything, but that's probably because they didn't want to have him on TV for any period of time anyway. But
right.
Anyway, LA Knight faced off with Roman Reigns, and what did you have to think about that segment?
I think I like it, but you and I have been talking about the rest of this year in the storylines in WWE and what we thought was going to happen leading into Philly's WrestleMania 40, the big one. And I think you were a fan of LA Knight versus The Miz. You thought that was a great story. And let's focus in on LA Knight because I know you were a big fan. I like him too.
Yeah.
He's been criticized as being like a remake of Stone Cold and The Rock, which I don't think is a criticism. I think it's a compliment because The Rock and Austin were so different in character. And to be able to kind of used little bits of inspiration from both characters to create LA Knight, or Eli Drake, formerly known as. Yeah, I think it's genius. So, and I think you and I agree on that. But Kevin Nash likes to hate. But Kev has been hating on a lot of things lately. But
Kev did a lot of positive things for pro wrestling.
Sure.
But I don't always agree with all his views, despite being a big NWO mark. If you didn't know, now you know.
NWO mark.
I am for life,
Yeah.
even though they're not on TV anymore. They're still the NWO in my heart. But that aside, I always wondered what they were going to do with LA Knight in the WWE. First off, I mean, they put him in NXT.
Yeah.
Obviously, they do that with most people other than AJ Styles when they first come in there to get them acclimated to the WWE way of performing in matches. And they gave him the name LA Knight. I didn't really think there was anything necessarily wrong with Eli Drake. I'm not hitting on the name LA Knight either. I was just questioning in the beginning because I was like, where does this go? Like, how does this relate to his character?
Yeah.
And what are they going to do with him? Because they've fumbled the ball so many times in different organizations when it comes to LA Knight.
Yeah. He just plugged my other podcast. Yeah,
And yeah. Anyway, go ahead and watch that podcast if you haven't. I appear on it twice already. But the main issue that a lot of people have had, as you said, is the amalgamation of different characters, in particular Stone Cold and The Rock. But this is my thing. If you're going to take bits from people that influence you, you might as well take them from some of the best to ever do it, which were The Rock and Stone Cold. When it comes to in-ring promos, and then when it comes to mannerisms and body language and everything else that comes in the package with being a pro wrestler. And if it really was so much like Stone Cold and The Rock, you really think that people would really catch on to it? He would be called out as an impersonator by most people, in my opinion. But because there's only elements of that and there's so much more to his character, I think people can see that as not a ripoff, but as an homage, and that's why people take to him so well.
Let's, by the way, not forget history and a lot of the legends. A plug for this podcast, Legend of Wrestling. Please subscribe, by the way. We need all of you, all the wrestling fans, sports fans too. I have a lot of teams that are horrible that I like to complain about, so this will be a great show for that. And basketball, we both are avid NBA fans, and we have a lot to talk about that in future episodes as the NBA is starting to ramp up. But yeah, a lot of superstars or just legends of this industry have borrowed from previous legends of this industry.
Absolutely.
That has not been a secret. Stone Cold has gone on the air and said that he used a lot of mannerisms and he ideas from Ric Flair, who was one of his favorite wrestlers. The Von Erichs, he was inspired a lot by them. And they're making a Von Erich film, by the way. Mm-hmm. That's got to be...
you got to check that out.
I can't wait to see who's playing who.
I mean, look, you have Hulk Hogan taking from...
Bruno?
Well, partially from Bruno. He's also taken from Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, yeah.
And even outside of wrestling, he took from Muhammad Ali. He said numerous times that a lot of his interviews and the way he approached it was from Muhammad Ali. And then some of the more blatant ones, you could look at no further than, if you think about it, there was $1 Million Man, but then you've got Bradshaw, which was basically the Texan ripoff.
Okay, I've never thought of that. That's crazy to me.
He's a rich guy that was trying to buy people off with his money and matches and stuff. And then you have the Hispanic version, to be more specific, because he is Mexican.
I know what
Alberto Del Rio.
Bam, 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 bam. Wasn't that his music? I thought I remember that. My favorite moment from Alberto was when he tried to cash it in his Money in the Bank on Punk, and then Punk just kicked him and he fucking left.
He could never say John Cena either. He always called him Jan Cena.
Sounds like fucking Santino Marella.
But Santino did things like that on purpose.
I know.
Like, this guy really could say it, and I couldn't for the life of me understand why, because, things that begin with a J in, Spanish, usually it's like an H, it's like you say Jose, Josue, or, Where do you get Jan? That's like European. That's like what Germans do with a J. It's like, where are you from? Are you really Mexican, bro? Do you speak Spanish?
Juan, they say usually. John is Juan.
Yeah, that's the exact translation for it. John is like Juan. But this guy would call him Jan Cena. Go figure. Yeah. But like back to LA Knight. Like,
so yeah, full circle. LA Knight, he let's not poo-poo his character. He's been doing this since TNA. He's just ramped it up even more. The what was his fucking name with the whole model thing? That was the dumbest.
It was something Dupree.
Max Dupree.
Max Dupree.
Or Max Dupree. That's what they would say. I feel like that was him paying his dues. I honestly think that was him just paying his dues. Vince knew that this guy is a star waiting to happen. It's the same way they did with Stone Cold and $1 Million Man, right? That was Austin paying his dues, and then it was just, and then when he became Stone Cold, they took off. Or The Rock being in the when he started up with the long hair and then those colorful tights. You remember the
Rocky Maivia?
Rocky Maivia, yeah. Literally, they were just trying to. You know.
I remember those days. Die, Rocky, die.
Yeah. Then he got it. He paid his dues. Roman Reigns has paid his dues, and so I feel like Max Dupree was short-lived for good reason, and LA Knight is what he was meant to be.
Absolutely.
So what do you think is going? So let's go into So he went face to face with Roman Reigns. He had a match with Solo.
By the way, he did an excellent job on the mic against Roman Reigns. I think it was probably one of his better promos in terms of the way that he delivered it, the cadence in which he delivered it. Because there were some promos that, even though he usually has great mic work, that sounded a bit shaky in delivery. Where
with
he caught
Miz,
himself.
He definitely had that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really hard to go promo to promo, toe to toe with Miz. But when you're talking about like Roman Reigns, like he was solid. You know, he was firm. He pretty much delivered it the way he was supposed to deliver it. Yep. It was really convincing. Again, I don't think it was his best promo, but it was certainly one of his better ones since he's come to the WWE.
Facts.
I think he's doing a great job. And as far as where we saw this coming, like you said, we talked about this a couple of months ago. I said, because there was a lack of challengers for Roman Reigns, and we were trying to figure out how they were going to draw this bloodline storyline into WrestleMania. And you did mention LA Knight.
Yep. And
I did say that if they were to do it, they would have had to start his push at least 6 months before WrestleMania. And
we're heading into what right now? What's the pay-per-view we're heading into?
We are heading into, well, we just got done with Fastlane, right?
Right. And what are your thoughts on that real quick?
I know in November there's Survivor Series.
So
is there something in between that?
Well,
double check on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the WWE Live Premium.
But if it's Survivor Series, you have a whole bunch of possibilities to draw it out if they bring back the traditional Survivor Series matches.
Yeah.
And again, if they were going to bring LA Knight towards a possible push to a title run, they were going to have to start it now, because you need to do the build up and you need to establish him enough as a credible threat approaching again WrestleMania. The other part about it, though, that's being teased, as you'll see that night, there was a stare off between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns as well. And they did tease earlier in the week, I believe it was, I might be mistaken, I think it was Michael Cole that asked him if this was the end of his story, and that was a tough question for Cody. So I believe that
it's a tease.
They're trying to throw some misdirections at us.
And I also 100% believe with in the midst of all of the changes happening in the front office with Vince no longer having creative control, and Triple H taking the helms. Look how immediately, no pun intended on helms. Look how quickly things have shifted. NXT was insane this past week.
NXT was literally like a star-studded return for a lot of people.
Taker came back, by the way.
Yes.
Taker came back and chokeslammed the fuck out of Braun Breaker. And then he didn't he give him the last ride?
I
No, he
forget
knocked
what-
him out.
Yeah,
He knocked him out.
Yes,
Yeah, he knocked him
that's
out,
exactly
yeah.
what he did.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the only thing I'm wondering where they go with this is if it's a one-off, because when Braun Breaker was doing his program
Yeah.
with Baron Corbin,
Yeah.
because they just got done with that.
Yeah.
Baron Corbin was talking about how Braun Breaker was trying to present himself as a badass,
Yeah.
and
By the way, Halloween Havoc is the next NXT pay-per-view.
I see.
Premium live event. Are they going to call it that still now that it never bought it?
I don't know,
Because
we'll
UFC
see.
has pay-per-views. So what does
Well, they're still. I don't know if I don't know. Pay-per-view is kind of.
and also premium live events are all on Peacock. So they're not going to be able to charge like $60 for these like they were with
I don't know. That's an interesting question. It's interesting to see where they go. But the only thing that I was going to say is that, you know, when Baron Corbin name dropped the Undertaker, kind of hinting at what was to come, but nobody really thought about it because they thought the Undertaker is completely retired, is that Braun Breaker tried to shake that off as like he didn't care about who Baron Corbin went against and so forth. And then here's NXT and the Undertaker shows up. Now, do I like it as a one-off? Yes. I like Braun Breaker kind of getting his comeuppance, getting humbled a little bit. But if they do take it in the direction where they try to bring Taker back for a match,
I don't think
I'm
so.
not a big fan of that.
I don't think so.
I hope they don't do that.
Taker's as amazing as Taker's legacy has been and will continue to be, and it will live in infamy, which is ironic because he rested in peace like a couple years ago. But it's I think some of his last matches were pretty bad. Like his first of all, the Saudi Arabia match with the tag team with Kane, and then it was Trips and Shawn Michaels one-off that came back for one match.
Well, that was worse for Shawn Michaels than anybody
That
else.
was horrible. And then Trips tore his shoulder up in that match. It was just like a bunch of like
Taker got injured in that match too.
Taker got hurt, and then you know, his last match that was great was the graveyard match with AJ Styles, which was appropriate, and it was amazing. It had layers to it. It was a movie. They borrowed some ideas from Billy. They did borrow some ideas from that. You got to admit, like Matt Hardy has changed cinematic wrestling for forever.
A very creative mind.
Absolutely. But yeah, so but then his match with Goldberg in Saudi Arabia was ugly and gross.
But see, they made the mistake of trying to make a lot of unnecessary dream matches, which is kind of the reason why I'm happy that he didn't go through with the one with Sting.
You were thinking what I was thinking. That's so funny.
Because what happened is they tried to throw him in with Goldberg, and Goldberg has never really been a great worker in the ring to begin with, so he can't help an older wrestler carry himself through a match.
Yeah.
Same thing with that Saudi Arabia main event. It was 4 older guys, one who hadn't been in the ring in God knows how long, and they were all like, you know, at the twilight of their careers. Nobody was going to carry that match.
Yeah.
It was tough. Even Triple H himself was, you know, beyond his prime at that point.
Yeah.
And then, you know, some of the other ones, I mean, even the one that he had with Roman wasn't all that good, because I don't think Roman was quite at the level to carry a match.
Do you think he should have just left after the Brock loss?
Do I think that
Taker should have just been like, all right, that's it. Would that have disappointed fans, or you think that would have made his like legacy kind of be poetic?
I think that fans might have been slightly disappointed, but I do think
Because he got a
in terms of
fucking concussion on that
in
match.
terms of business, it would have been good. Because even though the fans might have been slightly disappointed in the end, okay, someone finally broke the streak, and there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
Because instead of Taker lingering around, even though Brock still benefited, he would have benefited even more
Yeah.
as being credited as the guy not only ended the streak, but ended the career.
Right. Was that match?
However,
Yeah.
I don't agree that it should have been Brock. I think that it was a mistake to make him lose to Brock or even have that program, because They needed to give that to a younger superstar that needed a legitimate push. Brock was already on top of the mountain when he did that match, and he didn't need the push, and he didn't benefit as much as another wrestler would have from beating Taker.
I see your point, but I feel like it wouldn't have worked if they gave it to someone else. I mean, in that time, Punk had him the year before. Do you think Punk should have beaten him?
No, because Punk was having too many backstage problems, and they were fearing that he was going to leave. And it was probably the right decision not to have him beat him because he was already threatening to be out the door.
Yeah.
I have to revisit that point in time in
I
wrestling.
mean, I remember,
but I do think that somebody else could have benefited from that push.
Roman? He would have. I think they would have booed the shit out of him if he won.
No, because Roman wasn't prepared either. They were stuffing him down people's throats.
Yeah.
Again, I have to revisit that point in time in history to see who would have had the buzz.
Yeah.
But somebody definitely could have used it much more than Brock.
Now. WrestleMania 30. What's really crazy is that was almost 10 years ago. That's what's crazy.
But getting to LA Knight right now, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about some other lingering topics. But just to finish up on LA Knight for the moment, because we're going to have plenty more to talk about when it comes to him, I am very sure.
Oh, yeah.
But do you think that with LA Knight being given the push that he is right now, do you think that he is going to have success against Roman Reigns when they put him up there, or do you think that
I like this.
Do you think that it's going to be another setback thing like Cody Rhodes had last year?
I think it's time. I think if you're going to take the belts off of Roman Reigns, you got to do it at 40. I think if he keeps it after 40, that's when he'll really get white heat. He's going to get really ugly heat after that. People are ready, just like they were ready at 30 for Daniel Bryan to take the belt. And Vince is not the owner anymore, so I can say belt. But, so I think Bryan, same thing. It's time, and these 6 months is the same kind of push that Bryan was getting, but the difference was Bryan was getting it from the people, and this one is getting it from the office.
That's assuming that, they put him in the main event of WrestleMania. They might push him before that, and if it's before that, it's like...
So let's talk about this, because obviously they're going to go into a match. Do you think he's going to fight Roman Reigns before WrestleMania?
Directly? I don't know. I can see the possibility of him doing so only because, 6 months. I do agree that they should build him up, but he's already facing off with him, so I don't know what kind of matches they. Yeah. Now, Survivor Series they can hold off. Actually, you know what? There is a very good chance that he can make it to WrestleMania, and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
if they
so
do this
are we
properly.
going into predictions now?
We're gonna kind of. More like speculation, because I don't want to say this is a prediction because it may not, but how it could be handled. We're approaching Survivor Series.
So I'll tell you, the next pay-per-view, NXT Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, but and
then Crown Jewel and then Survivor Series. Okay. Yes. So,
but with
Crown Jewel is going to have its own storyline, by the way. It's not going to be in line with.
But even if it doesn't, let's just say it doesn't. Right now, they're putting him there. They seem to be putting him in a collision course with Solo right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the Bloodline. They could keep him with Solo. They could switch him off with Jimmy later. They can make it to Survivor Series because Survivor Series, actually, I've been saying this for a while. This year, they really need to bring back the original Survivor Series match for at least 2 matches because there are a whole lot of strong factions in the WWE right now. It would benefit them to have these teams collide in a form of supremacy. And maybe have one team that's not necessarily a faction, but kind of like a ragtag group of people that like maybe LA Knight and John Cena put together, for example. But I mean, you already have this uneasy alliance which could turn into friction with the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. And then there definitely probably could be one more team fit in there? We could see. I don't know, because there could be a faction that could go. There could be another team, like I just mentioned, that could be put together to go against that faction. Yeah. Oh, by the way, sorry. Let me finish this thought, and then I'll get into the one thing that I wanted to mention. We should talk about this before moving on. But Survivor Series could be turned into a faction thing. Then we can stretch it out somehow to the Royal Rumble, and that's where LA Knight could possibly win. And then from those 3 months, it would make it a lot easier to stretch it out to Roman and WrestleMania.
All right. I like this. Okay.
How they do it, I don't know. But I'm just saying that would be like a path.
I've been talking about this a lot. Everyone's sleeping on the Money in the Bank. Everyone's sleeping on Damian Priest. At least the people we've talked to, including yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been a major proponent for Damian Priest. Since we're talking about speculations, I'm going to bring this in. I've been a major proponent of Damian Priest getting that ultimate stealing of the spotlight moment, just like Seth Rollins did at 31. I want him to come in at Mania, and I'll explain how I think he's going to get involved, like through this storyline you're sharing. I think it would be a waste if he uses it on Seth. Although there would be some, like callback to Seth having had done the same thing. But they don't have a feud right now. Now, Seth and Shinsuke, I think that needs to continue because that's a great storyline. So let's not touch that. They can make a big program out of that.
I feel like they've already ended it though.
It's stupid that they ended it. I think Shinsuke as a heel was so fucking good, and that angle with the going in on his back and all that, making him humble.
I don't see the purpose of continuing it now. I do agree with you. They shouldn't have stopped it, but it should have ended with Shinsuke winning the title.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So is it over, or is it?
Well, no. They're actually on Raw. They were setting up another feud for Shinsuke.
What about Seth?
He was going up against like Ricochet.
Oh,
so
my God, that's not a.
I don't know where they're going with that because they're talking about Ricochet getting his revenge. But the other thing, now that we've touched up on the LA Knight thing.
Yeah, I do want to button this up.
Go ahead and finish.
I just want to button up this idea with LA Knight. So
finish your prediction with the case.
It's related, is what I'm saying. So I think so. Let's go up to Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. We'll pause the speculations until that point. I do agree that these factions need to go head to head. You have the group with Bobby Lashley, right, and Street Profits.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that. You've got Judgment Day. What else do we got?
Bloodline.
Bloodline. Well, it's like a fractured bloodline right now. So,
but I mean, they still got enough to go ahead and put something together. I mean,
what about
they could form an alliance with someone, the three of them, and
did Jimmy end up did Jimmy ever end up joining Judgment Day? He didn't.
No, he didn't.
He joined Sammy and.
But I'm gonna get to that part in a second. Hold that thought, but finish off the briefcase.
Right. Yeah. So Judgment Day. Okay, Judgment Day. My prediction on their storyline has been the beef between Damian Priest and I'm blanking on his name. They had this since the match that what's his name had against Seth, and then he felt like.
Are you talking about Finn Balor?
Finn Balor.
See, it's less about Finn Balor now. Now where they've been steering it recently is even Finn Balor has been kind of backing him. They've been turning the attention to J.D. McCullough.
J.D. McCullough. Okay, so is that just for this upcoming paper? Fucking Crown Jewels, you think? Or
well,
is that gonna
I
be...
think that we're gonna start to see what direction they're gonna go in on Monday. Because Monday they have the rematch for their tag titles. You're gonna see whatever happens with them begin to unfold Monday. So pay attention to that.
That's and it's I think the 30th anniversary of Raw is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. I think it's rare that you've seen inside of one faction that you would have heels and faces at the same time.
I mean, even Rhea Ripley's an anti-hero at this point.
Well, fair enough, but I'm saying like half of them were getting cheered, half of them were getting booed.
Yes.
And that to me is interesting enough because Damien is like on the line right now as far as becoming
He's kind of a tweener.
Yeah, he's a tweener. Rhea is loved by everyone. They think she's the mommy of the whole group. And then you got Dominic, who
hated by
people
everyone.
hate.
Hated by
And Finn is kind of like not really the sexy one anymore in the group. Like as far as like he was the best wrestler in my opinion out of the four. So and now the JD McCullough angle, which goes back to Bullet Club, right? Back in Japan. Isn't that where they were together as the Bullet Club? Or
I think that JD was. I don't remember if he was in Japan. I didn't follow him for that far back, but he was in NXT UK.
Yeah,
and then NXT. Right. So definitely, and they have some history there. And the fact is that JD McCullough was trained by Finn Balor.
Yeah, that's it.
That's where the connection is.
So yeah, I think to cap it off. So yeah, these factions, Judgment Day will go against these other two or three factions, and I think they'll go over because that needs to happen. The Judgment Day has to become a internally turmoiled group, just like Bloodline, right? But their angle is that they keep winning, with the exception of Damian Priest keeps trying to cash in his Money in the Bank, but it keeps coming up short, and he doesn't actually go through with it. And that's where I think it's going to start to get hidden until Mania. But for as far as Survivor Series, yes, I agree with you. Judgment Day needs to be there. Hit Row, are they gone? Because they fired a couple of them. Again.
I think they fired Top Dollar.
Top Dollar, yeah.
Not like I was a big Top Dollar fan anyway, but
is that as a rapper or as a wrestler?
We're gonna touch up on this last part of SmackDown and WWE, and then we're gonna carry on to another topic that you've been wanting to touch up on. Mm-hmm. But this last part obviously has to do with the Nick Aldis introduction. Now, Nick Aldis obviously had his little spat with Dominic Mysterio, and that was to increase more heat with Dominic Mysterio and make Nick Aldis kind of like this fan favorite off the bat.
Yep.
He had that shot where he said that he was a big fan of his father, which really got under Dominic's skin. But then they brought up the fact that SmackDown had to trade away Jey Uso. Well, they said on screen it was like quit, but now they're trying to spin it as they gave away a star, and that's how it was negotiated through Cody Rhodes. Yeah. So they said that another star had to be obtained from Raw in order to balance the scale. So guess who made his debut on SmackDown?
Tell him.
KO, Kevin Owens.
KO came to SmackDown?
KO is now officially on SmackDown, which PO'd Roman Reigns to no end.
Hold on. So, is Sammy staying on Raw then?
Sammy is still on Raw, yeah.
So they're going to have their thing with Jay and Sammy, I think. It seems like what's happening over there. Like, Sammy went from teaming with KO. They had a great run as champs. And then now it's Sammy and Jay. Because they were back together since Jay left the Bloodline.
It could be a possibility, but right now Jay is with Cody as the Universal Tag Team Champions.
That's right.
Yeah, the Undisputed, I should say. It's not Universal, but I'm still thinking of Roman and his belt.
So Nick Aldis and
yes,
KO.
We're going to call them belts. We're going to call them straps. They are what they are.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
The champion wins the championship. Yes, we get it, but a championship is not something I can physically hold in my hand.
No.
I need this is pro wrestling. We need straps. We need belts. And we need to keep it legit.
Hey, the same way they call the NHL
keep it real.
the same way they call the NHL final, the NHL Cup,
the
Stanley Cup. It's a cup, so they call it a cup. They don't call it a title. They don't call it a championship. It's a cup.
Or if you want to call it a championship, call it a championship belt.
Right.
Because a championship is like the actual like being on top, like you won the championship, but the prize itself should be what it is.
What are your thoughts on that?
Like in the NBA, it's a championship ring.
Or the Larry O'Brien trophy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in,
or the Super Bowl,
the Super Bowl rings,
yeah.
and the but they call them what they are.
Right.
So let's call them what they are. They are belts.
Do you guys agree? If you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear from you. Comment on this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So Nick Aldis, new GM, SmackDown. So they're going back to the GM route. They keep going away from this, coming back to this. Adam Pearce kind of just came out of nowhere. And
it's pro wrestling. Stuff happens in cycles. Even angles are derived from other angles.
When you watch wrestling for as long as you and I have, it becomes like we get excited when something new happens, right? That's why I was excited about the Shinsuke heel turn, because that Shinsuke heel turn was gonna lead to a anti-hero. It was definitely gonna lead to that. Maybe that's why they stopped it, because they were like, oh shit, this is gonna become a hot thing that people are gonna want. He was becoming like a villain, not a heel, and that's why I liked it.
Well, the hesitation that I believe on WWE's part, when it comes to Shinsuke, is the fact that his English is pretty piss poor.
But it worked.
And he doesn't. Well,
it worked that his English was broke.
It works only for a certain amount of time.
But
because at some point it's gonna wear thin, and then where do you go? Like the guy has to like. Don't get me wrong. You could have a guy that doesn't speak or a female or that doesn't speak English well still do well in pro wrestling, but they gotta have something more to the character. Shinsuke hasn't developed that nuance for some reason. You know who does it really well? Asuka does it really well, because she can hardly speak English, but there's so much like
she has
eccentric
and
elements to a character. There's so much depth,
right? And she speaks Japanese on those rants, and then those hit, even though people don't understand. Most of them, it still hits, because they know she's just she's snapped.
She's really good at like saying something without actually saying something.
And I love
I think that's something that's
like to pay homage.
I think that's something that Shinsuke needs to develop a little more as a wrestler. But he's an excellent in-ring worker, and I wish he would have a championship. I'm just saying that's my guess on why WWE wouldn't have pulled the trigger on it.
Maybe Triple H will bring it back, because the problem with something like that is when you hit gold, don't go away from it, because then it loses its essence. Well, the same way when Mick Foley used to cut promos with music in the background, that was a fucking genius idea as Mankind, early Mankind. That's what I was seeing with Shinsuke, and it was like I said, it was a completely different take on it. Shinsuke had music in his promos, even though he was speaking Japanese. With subtitles, it worked. It was like watching anime. It was like watching Japanese drama. Like it was amazing. I loved it. And maybe Seth wasn't the right opponent for that type of character, but there are plenty of wrestlers that would be.
I think that you might be onto something, but I think where the WWE dropped the ball, and I'm going to close it on this last point before we move to the next topic. Yeah. But I think where WWE dropped the ball with that was, I do like using the subtitles and so forth. I think his promos were too long. They should have kept the subtitles, but more straight to the point. Like kind of like, instead of having this drawn out thing where he talks about his back for like literally 5 minutes. Just like more menacing, like, you're black, I'll break it, or like but shortened to the point.
It was like Ivan Drago-esque, right? Yeah, that's what I loved about it.
But Ivan Drago was more effective because he said less and did more.
That's right.
And that's what they need to do.
That's what they need to do. You're right.
Yeah, I think they needed to hone on that. But they did have something.
But it was blurring the lines of wrestling and reality. Like, it was like he was bringing in real shit. And that's why it worked. Anyway, so let's see where that goes.
Onward to the other side of the pro wrestling world, to AEW.
You think you know me. Dude, rated R superstar. Oh man, I wish he was what was his name, that ring announcer, because he loved bringing Edge in when he was in WWE. He was like weighing at 200 26 pounds, the rated R.
Was it Finkel? Howard Finkel?
Superstar. No, it wasn't Finkel. It was a guy. I'll look it up. But anyway, so anyway, they don't have him, but they do have the other ring announcer who brought him in as rated R superstar, which by the way wasn't patented by WWE.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? Yeah, like were you talking about a AEW ring announcer, or were you talking about a WWE one? Because
I'm saying the WWE.
Because up until this point, no one's ever, unless it wasn't a person that was transferred to WWE. I mean, AEW from WWE. I can't think of anybody who's ever announced his name before.
Superstar. He always carried that. It was a Chimmel. It was Chimmel. Tony Chimmel.
Tony Chimmel. Okay.
Yeah. Tony Chimmel was that. He kind of made that entrance more memorable. So formerly known as Edge, Adam Copeland, now in AEW. He debuted at the last pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
Against it was the match with it was the match that had Christian versus Skater Boy.
Darby Allin.
Darby Allin, yeah.
It wasn't a triple threat actually.
Was it?
It was Darby Allin and Luchasaurus, and then Christian ended up winning the title by pinning Luchasaurus.
I think it was just Christian and Darby. It was Christian versus Darby, and then his friend turned on him.
Oh, I'm thinking about the match afterwards where Christian actually won the title, because he's now officially what is it, the TNT title now?
He's a TNT champ.
Yeah,
because he wasn't at first.
Yeah, they had, because it was Luchasaurus, and then the thing is, they had a triple threat match between Darby Allin, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage, and Christian ended up pinning Luchasaurus.
That's right.
Which is, it's an interesting angle, because Luchasaurus is still loyal to him despite having lost to Christian Cage.
So Wrestle Dream was where he made his debut, right?
Okay.
Wrestle Dream. I'm not crazy about AEW pay-per-view names, by the way. All In and All Out are amazing, but the rest of them, I don't know. I'm like
they sound influenced by Japan for some reason.
Well, don't they work with Japan?
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, like they're a lot of their top stars in the EVPs are literally spent most of their careers in Japan. It would be reasonable for them to.
But like, I loved
ECW had some of the best names for their
like
pay-per-views.
December to Remember, right? Or December to Dismember, I think it's called. Yeah. But anyway, but
to focus on
We're
Copeland. Adam Copeland. I have to remind myself to keep calling him Adam Copeland.
MJF called him Edge in the post.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting.
Because did you see Tony Khan's face? He's like, "What are you doing?"
MJF doesn't care. That's what I love about him. But like, okay, I understand that's his real name. That's not as far as real names go.
It's literally WCW style.
I'm not knocking him, but that name just doesn't hit for me as a wrestler.
Okay, so this is good. Why did it work when Razor became Scott Hall, but it didn't, and Diesel became Kevin Nash, but it doesn't work with Adam Copeland?
Well, because this is because for starters, when you look at that perspective, Razor Ramon and Diesel were WWE name creations that were given to these characters who already existed before they came to the WWE.
As the previous names.
Yeah. They had
the real names, I mean.
Because when you talk about WCW, they weren't established as anyone. Because if you think about it, Kevin Nash came in prior to coming in as Diesel. He was Vinny Vegas.
Yeah.
And nobody cared for Vinny Vegas. No. So it was really easy to ditch that name.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Razor Ramon, he was the Diamond Stud. And he was in a stable with Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah.
And again, a name that didn't really stick. Now,
But Scott Hall is such a cool name. Like it was just
well, yeah. First of all, Scott Hall is a cool name, but Scott Hall is also a very shortened to the point name. Scott Hall,
Yeah.
Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
There's like 2 syllable, really.
just Kevin is 2 syllables. All the other
the 2-3 syllables. Yeah, but like
Scott is 1. Yeah. So I actually do the syllable
yeah.
thing.
So LA night, but yeah. There you go, Kevin. But
so Adam, okay, but yeah, so finish.
But then, so yeah, to finish that up, they only really were in, even though they had such great runs there, they were only in WWE, if you really believe it, for like 2, maybe max 3 years.
But they had pushes.
Yeah, they had great
Diesel
pushes.
and Taker had a
I
match.
mean, Diesel had
won
a championship run on multiple occasions.
Scott Hall and
had
a great match.
had multiple intercontinental runs and
Shawn
tag team
Michaels,
runs, and so it's easy to forget that they weren't in the industry long.
Yeah.
They were relatively in terms of national recognition, because nobody really knew who they were in WCW in their prior runs. Right. As far as national recognition, they were 2 to 3 years into that. So there was a little easier for them to make the transition. People could kind of, and their names helped, they could make that transition easier. Edge, how many years was he in the WWE?
I know.
It's how legendary is the name Edge, and like how synonymous is it with what we recognize him as? We think about it. He's probably been in the industry for like over 20 years.
Yep,
I'm just guessing. So you go for over 20 years of calling a guy a 1-syllable name, mind you.
That's
Edge.
what is it. That's what I was gonna say.
And then now you have to go Adam Copeland.
It took the edge off, literally, of his character. Yeah, it does. It takes the edge off it. I think when you go from a fucking amazing name like Edge to then Adam Copeland, it becomes it takes and then rated R superstars. Like you're saying everything but Edge, basically.
Yeah,
so it's like just everyone know. You know what's crazy to me?
What would have been cool is if he just went by the rated R superstar.
But even then, I feel like
it would have been better.
Edge without saying
you're right, but it would have been better than Adam Copeland.
What if they called him Ledge? Just add an L to it, because it's like you're technically not saying Edge.
All they would really need to do, to be honest with you, I think in terms of a copyright thing, is they would have found a unique way to spell Edge.
Yeah, like Taz did. Taz did the same thing. ECW Taz was 1 Z and WWE Taz was 2 Z's.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But to be fair, Vince did eventually buy the rights to those, so he could have done that.
And Tony
regardless.
can afford to buy Edge. It's not like he can't, but
I mean, Tony could afford to pay CM Punk and give him his own show. Then yes, he can afford to.
Okay, now we're going there. That's a good segue. Now we're going to, okay. So my quick thoughts on Punk. I know this is way after the point, but I'm going to speak about Punk as a fan of his character in the ring, and on the mic, and a rebel without a cause at this point,
or a company.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel Punk never has had a legitimate break mentally from any combat sport, and I include UFC and wrestling, since the age of 14 when he started. He's talked about it himself, where he hasn't had a summer break. The only one he had was when he quit WWE and he went to get married, and they fired him on his wedding day, which all of that
mind you, that wasn't really even a break, because despite even the marriage part, even if we were to include that, he was still dealing with recovering from a staph infection.
What exactly? So what the difference is between him taking a long hiatus from wrestling versus The Rock or Christian even, was the fact that they actually took breaks from wrestling, and they took breaks from combat sport. They didn't then go and train for a whole other sport, which Punk did. So in these 7 years that he was gone, he didn't actually get a mental break. And even if he didn't do UFC, what was everyone chanting? It was chanting CM Punk at all these wrestling events. Every time he would get seen at a Cubs game or a Blackhawks game, hey, CM Punk, when are you coming back? So he never truly got a break from wrestling. A lot of people think he did. I think he just subbed in UFC. That took a lot of years off of his career. If you're asking me, truthfully, his fighting career and wrestling career, because that sport is brutal, and he tried to train in a year and a half to have his first fight, where the other fighters have been training their whole lives. They didn't have pro wrestling as a sport to then go into UFC. So we have to consider all this. I'm not excusing what he did at the pay-per-view at All Out, at All In England, but he was asked to go and talk to Jungle Boy from the boys. He was asked to go talk some sense into him because he wanted to use real glass for that spot, and Punk was trying to talk sense into him to not do that, and it's going to expose the business.
Yeah, I think everybody is like familiar right now with what happened at All In.
So yeah,
and the altercation that took place with Jungle Boy and so forth,
which is he's still suspended, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been terminated. Did
they fire him?
He's been terminated as a wrestler and because he also had another contract as a backstage, but he's been terminated.
Oh wow, I had no idea. Okay,
and the situation that we really got to speculate on right now is what's Punk's future.
Yeah,
right?
so
because
here's where
we all know what happened at All In. We all know that who was at fault there, and we're not making excuses for CM Punk.
No.
Nor are we making excuses for Jack Perry.
So here, before we go on, because you just said, I want to read. This is as of September 4th, which is about 7-8 days ago, or yeah. Like
September 4th.
September 4th, 2023.
That's
latest.
not like 3-4 days ago.
That's like 7-8 days ago.
You said September 4th.
Uh-huh.
It's October. It's over a month.
Oh, wow. I'm tripping. Why am I thinking it's September? I'm thinking it's September 14th.
Yeah, dummy.
I've been recording shows and episodes all day today, so this is my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Okay. I'm looking for new.
While you look for that, bottom line, what we got to discuss here is CM Punk's future.
Yeah, CM Punk. Yeah. So you tell me what you think, and then I'll tell you as a fan.
Well, first of all, what I want to pose a question is this, because I personally would love to see him back in wrestling. I don't think that he should go out in this way. I think he should have the opportunity to go out the right way. But the problem granted though that Samoa Joe match was a wonderful match, but I don't think that he should go out in that way. I think he should have a proper close to his career, even if it's not that much longer. I do want to say that I don't know at this point if there's because of the circumstances around this event, if there's really a demand to bring him back. WWE actually went on record. It could be a form of misdirection because WWE does do this. But WWE recently, a few days, went on record stating that there have been no talks to bringing CM Punk back into the company. Which, again, like I said, WWE does do the misdirection thing once in a while. But,
because they still believe in kayfabe.
Because AEW has... But the thing is, like, AEW hasn't publicly came out and made any statements about having a desire to bring him back either. In fact, they're trying to promote it as it's a good thing and it's become a more relaxed environment since he's gone. So
Punk needs to heal.
Is he going to come back?
I think Punk needs to heal mentally. I think Punk's very old school with his backstage politics. And that is why, but the only difference, but what makes it a problem is that he's not able to see other perspectives from today's backstage, which is very much more inclusive with the group, and there's no cliques really as much as there used to be with a C or a K. And I just think that Punk, he should take this next 5 to 6 months off. And kind of get forgotten about, which he never gets forgotten about, but just be kind of allow himself to just genuinely take some break, go on vacation with AJ and just enjoy and be able to just decompress. Okay. I know it's old news now but it needs to be mentioned that the EVPs had a meeting scheduled with Punk to squash whatever beef they had, and they canceled that meeting the morning of All In, and so Punk was irate at that because he was trying to make amends. They did their little on-screen beef back and forth, digging at each other and all that. But so Punk, my biggest thing with Punk is if he's gonna come back, he should come back. If he's coming back to WWE, he should come back on the Monday after WrestleMania. I think that's where it would get the biggest pop. If he comes back at Mania, it takes away from all the other storylines that have been working, and it kind of hijacks it, and he's not going to be liked by the players in the back.
I do think that Punk needs to be away for some time, even if he comes back. He was talking about teasing 2 months with nothing to do. I think as nice as it would be to see him, November is too soon.
100%.
And I will say this as well. I'll say this, and then I'm probably just gonna close out the CM Punk thing, unless you have some final thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I'll say this: AEW needs to also acknowledge, in a way, that they dropped the ball in the CM Punk situation. Punk is responsible for losing his temper. Punk is responsible for the altercation, yes. But it's like one of those things where
putting Tony Khan in danger.
But it's one of those things where it's like you're in a school and the kids are getting bullied, and everybody just ignores the fact that something's happening, and then they wonder why a school shooting happened. And I'm not, by the way, we're not advocating school shootings on the show, but I'm trying to make this comparison mentally to say this. As a person that runs a wrestling organization, Tony Khan should have taken more of a executive role or a more administrative role in terms of handling this situation, instead of trying to be the wrestlers' friends and trying to make them all get along and please everybody. Yeah. The reality of the situation is this: if Tony Khan was a little bit more hands-on with dealing with the situation, he was the one that was going to try and enforce these meetings with the EVPs. Yeah. He was doing damage control before a lot of this stuff happened. Punk wouldn't be in this position. There wouldn't be a backstage altercation.
Well, the easiest thing he could have done is not allow EVP to cancel that meeting. He has the final say. Take the fucking meeting. If you guys aren't going to make up, that's fine. But you need to talk this shit out. That pent up holding this stuff in for over a year, that catches up. Literally from last All In to this All In, or that last All Out to this All In, was that how long they've had beef.
Well, see, that's the thing that the WWE, I give them credit for, in regards to how they handle situations like this. A lot of times when there are altercations backstage, and there are many in WWE, some of them they don't even talk about until late. Well, it's not even just that they're good at hiding it. Vince will hear about it, and Vince back in the day would step in. Yep. And do what he needed to handle the situation.
Vince would never say, "I was afraid."
Even with the Bret Hart situation, with the screw job, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he got a lot of heat, and rightfully so. But he never denied his involvement. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He said he took responsibility. I mean, the angle on TV was Bret screwed Bret, but in reality, even he acknowledged that he made the decision that he made. Yeah. And he gave reasons for it, regardless of whether we agree or disagree. But it was something that he was involved in. He knew what was going on in his company. Yeah. Other situations that arise, even with the CM Punk thing that he mishandled in the W, he was still involved. Mm-hmm. Like, we can't say that it was. Like, for example, he didn't send Triple H to handle his problem. Yes, there was a beef with Triple H in terms of they didn't want him to have a match, but it's not like he sent Triple H over there to, like, deliver his papers or handle... Vince McMahon was pretty hands-on when it came to handling conflicts with his own company.
But hold on.
Tony Khan steps in, and he tries to be the wrestler's friend. And when you're running a company with so many big egos... and so many people that are trying to look out for their own careers, in many ways rightfully so, because it's their career. No one's going to look out for you in that business if you're not looking for out for yourself. You need to take the role of an authority figure. And I think that's where he dropped the ball.
No, yeah. I will challenge one notion about Vince McMahon with the Punk situation getting fired. He went on Stone Cold's podcast, Vince did, when Stone Cold's podcast came on to WWE TV, right, on the network. And he said, Stone Cold asked him, he's like, so the CM Punk situation, and then immediately he said, we did not intend to have his termination papers delivered on his wedding day. That was not our intention. I call cap on that. I think he's lying. I think
that might be possible. I'm not saying that's not, because Vince had a record
and
of
Vince also
being very petty, like even young Vince from the old WWF days.
Remember like Vince with the steroid accusations. You remember that interview when he smacks the guy's paper out of his hands? He's like, "Oh, you think you know?" Like
Vince used to take pot shots at people all the time. Wyndham Rotunda's father, the IRS character, was a shot at the feds.
Right.
Well, not the feds, the IRS, for looking into his records. Because they were trying to tax him because of a whole dispute of wrestling and. Sports entertainment deal, but that was a shot at them. Vince is very petty. He's done this multiple times, both subtly and directly. So I don't doubt what you're saying, but what I'm saying is he knew about it. He was involved no matter what. I mean, it wasn't, and he definitely wasn't trying to please anybody. Right. If anything, he was trying to hurt somebody maliciously by doing that. But the one thing you can't say is he doesn't know what's going on in his company. He knows. He might lie to you about it, but he definitely knows. And I think sometimes Tony Khan doesn't know what's going on with his own company.
I believe Tony's going to get better. I think.
It's a young organization. I'm not condemning Tony.
Because it's not going to be an Eric Bischoff situation where it just keeps going downhill. I think Tony is going to turn it around. I honestly believe if...
Well, that's because there's no Hulk in the fucking...
There's no creative control on the part
of the... There's no creative
the EVP
control.
is kind of the same shit right now.
Well, yes, but let's be real. The EVPs haven't been winning a lot of matches.
I know, but...
They're not Hoganing it. Hogan rarely dropped to people. You're talking to a Hogan mark. Right. But, like, Hogan rarely dropped matches to people. They had to beg him to get a clean... For someone to get a clean win on
the
him.
Jeff Jarrett one? Anyway...
Last final thing, by the way. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I want, like, the fan in me wants Punk to actually go back to AEW, but I think the business decision that's gonna end up happening because of the Bucks having so much power in AEW is that Punk is actually gonna end up going back to WWE. He's not going to Japan, and he's not going to go to any of the other companies that are out there right now.
He can't go to ROH because ROH has a joint agreement with AEW.
But he wouldn't even. I don't think he would have gone back to ROH. Even.
Well, I mean, they could have struck a deal where he would be like Samoa Joe. It's an ROH kind of guy, but he's still in AEW.
It's like when WWE bought ECW. That's what it would be.
They tried to do that with Impact, but Impact sucks too much. I'm sorry.
No. Impact was a partnership, whereas ROH is owned by Khan. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think Punk. I want him back in AEW, and I want him to make that. It's really just him dealing with Tony Khan and asking for Khan's forgiveness for getting aggressive, and then but otherwise, I think the reality is WWE is going to where he's going to end his career. So
Well, no matter where Punk ends up, I definitely would like to see him wrestle, have one last run, and I wish him the best. And Punk, if you're watching this at any point in time, even if it's a year from now, revisiting these episodes, I'm going to put this out into the universe. We'd love to have you on the podcast. So.
let's go. I would love to have Punk on a podcast.
Yeah.
We also what happened last time you had a podcast. So-
hey, might be good for the views, Punk, bring some of those pastries with you from Chicago.
Yes.
Bring me a deep dish because I love deep dishes.
Same. Double up. And by the
yeah.
way, speaking of Chicago, we're going to have frequent guest drop-ins by none other than Pratik himself, one of my old roommates here at the crib, and also a Chicagoan. And he's back in Chicago right now. Pratik, if you're
Shout out
listening to this,
Pratik.
you're gonna be weighing in on a lot of this. Another avid wrestling fan.
Final subject real quick, and then, we're probably going to have to round this up.
Let's
but-
wrap it up. Yeah.
Yep, wrap it up. Wrap it up like we're going in head first.
Let's go.
Okay.
What do you got?
Okay. Jade Cargill.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's what was her name when she was the TBS champ? She was called the That Bitch Show. What did she call that? Didn't she call herself that?
I think so.
That she said that. Hey, she's a real deal when WWE is putting that much money in her. I'm sorry, AEW has a lot of money, but WWE has a lot of clout still in wrestling because of all the years and experience that they have in recognizing talent. And I think Jade Cargill can be the next Jade Cargill. I'm not going to call her the next China because I think China was a completely different animal. But Jade Cargill, I'm sure, has some inspiration from China, but she's
they
got-
do that anytime there's a dominant female. There were early comparisons to China when it came to Rhea Ripley too.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're different characters. They're definitely different approaches.
So what do you think? Which show is she going to be on? Because she's been on all three.
She's done the rounds.
She was on Fastlane too, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Jade Cargill. I predict that she'll still go to NXT.
You think she's going to?
Because again, don't quote me on this. History has shown though that most stars, no matter where they come from, how big, the only star that ever made it straight jump from getting hired to the main roster was AJ Styles, and we know how phenomenal AJ Styles is. He's like basically a generational athlete when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a whole different beast, and he literally wrestled all around the world. We're talking about Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill is definitely a rising talent, but there is definitely still a lot of dues that she's got to pay.
Yeah.
That's not why they're going to stick her in.
NXT is not
though.
paying dues, by the way. For the record.
NXT, yeah. NXT is mainly because it's a
Performance
place.
centers where you pay your dues, but not in on the show.
And by the way, she visited the Performance Center too.
That's right.
But I do believe that NXT is a training ground where it's like hands-on training. You're actually doing matches, going on live shows, getting used to.
You're learning the WWE way.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
She's gonna learn the WWE way. Do I foresee her stay there being long? No, because they're already teasing showdowns with established WWE legends and stars. So I don't foresee her staying there that long, but I do believe that she will start in NXT.
Do you have any? Do you think she has any weaknesses?
Any weaknesses to her game?
Weaknesses as a wrestler, or on the mic, or even as backstage? Do you think she has any missing link before she's pushed like an LA Knight is being pushed?
I think that, I don't think that they should use a brush up. That's probably not the right word, but I believe that she could improve on her mic skills. She could improve on the mic
That's fair.
skills. And not necessarily because she's bad on the mic. I believe it's because that the WWE has a certain way that they like to have their promos delivered.
Yeah.
They're very particular about it. Even the verbiage that they use.
Maybe they're changing
You're not
it.
allowed to use certain words. It's always ever changing.
No, but I'm saying like, maybe it's going to get a lot more relaxed now that Trips is fully in charge.
It might be.
Because Trips was had his own promos. He was not given promos.
It might be. But the thing about the Trips thing is, it's really going to come down to the UFC and the entity that owns them, because
Well, I think they've
they're
given full
going
creative
to-
control to Triple H. They said you
true,
control
but
this.
to creative control in terms of how you want to run your show. But there are still TV network deals that they have to adhere to when it comes to certain language.
The same USA Network that had the Attitude Era on it is the same USA Network.
Yes,
that
but
has
the
Raw.
same USA Network that had the Attitude Era on it is well, actually, that wasn't this. That wasn't the USA Network.
There was Spike TV
That was-
for a short.
No, there was there was if you go to SmackDown, you were in UPN for a while.
SmackDown was on UPN,
yes.
which is the CW now.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, Raw was meant to be the dirtier show, right? That was always considered.
Yeah, because we also had the slot where they were on later. The dirtier stuff usually happened on later in the show.
Right, they did.
But
The third hour.
yeah, but yeah, like it's just a matter of like for example, she was calling herself a bad bitch, right?
Yeah. She's not gonna get away with that on
Well, you can to a certain extent, but you can only use it so many times, because Becky Lynch has used the word bitch before, but like it's in spurts. You can only they only let you get away
It's
with
got to be very tasteful.
a very
it can't
number
be part
of
of
times.
your character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
So
but-
here's the thing. Here's what I want to ask you then.
yeah, but that's why they integrate you into NXT, because NXT is a little bit more lenient. It gives you time to adjust before you make your
Fair.
transition.
That's fair. So with that said, let's each give our prediction. Not on which show she'll go on. You said NXT. I think she's going to go to Raw.
Okay, fair enough.
Because they have more time to fit in more wrestlers there. So we have our predictions on that. Okay, so now, who's her first program?
Again, that's going to depend on what show she ends up on.
Does it? Because the WWE stars are going to NXT now regularly. So
Yeah, but some of them are established. To be fair, the more established ones, the ones that are in the main event.
okay, so pick someone in NXT then if you think it's
because, for example, I'll put it this way: it does make a difference, because if you end up on Raw, I don't think you're going to go back and have a feud with someone in NXT.
okay,
Do you think that's a fair point?
fair.
Like, I'm not going to go ahead and say that for example, Jade Cargill, if she gets drafted to Raw, I'm not going to say she's going to have a feud with that one chick that Becky Lynch, for example, took the belt from. What was it?
Bianca?
No, not Bianca. Remember the NXT title?
Yeah.
I can't think of her name
I know.
at the moment.
I'll look it up right now. But no. So okay.
So you can't. You're not going to go backwards with that.
So with that said,
But with that said, okay. If she goes on Raw.
Wait, you said NXT though.
No, I know, but you're saying.
I'm saying, let's say
But
she
okay,
is on
let's
NXT,
see.
so
She's
what's the
on
first
NXT.
program?
The next,
Yeah.
the first program. It might depend. I mean, like, if she starts now, it's very. It might. I don't see them dropping her down to the bottom of the card, because
Tiffany
she's already
Stratton
been.
was the last.
Yeah, I don't think she's gonna go ahead and wrestle people like two. I think that it's possible.
You think she's gonna go against?
Maybe she'll go against Becky. Becky's the
Becky's the
NXT, and I don't think that they're going to put her, like you said earlier. Even if she goes to NXT, I don't think she's going to start at the bottom of NXT. I think they're going to put her in with the top stars of NXT. And I believe if that's the case, maybe Becky Lynch would be a opponent that she. Now I put a caveat in there. That's if she goes to NXT, which is my prediction.
I already see it. Yeah.
But if she ends up on SmackDown, I think for sure she's going to have a feud with Charlotte Flair.
Because they already teased that. They already teased that on SmackDown. Okay.
But it's also...
And that was the only wrestler they've teased it with.
But it's also because Charlotte Flair has the experience to be able to put on a good match with her and cover up any inconsistencies or weak points in Jade's game if she has one right now.
Yeah.
It's a good opponent to carry her through a match.
Okay. All right. So you got Becky Lynch as.
But yeah, I'm right now. It's Becky because my prediction is she lands on NXT.
All right. I like that. I think if there's any time to have her start in NXT, it would be here now, because you can still give her a main event push, despite not being on.
I don't see her getting a championship run yet in Raw though. If she goes to Raw, she's definitely going to be like have a feud with somebody before she has it, because Ripley's too hot right now and she's already feuding with like 3 people.
Okay. All right. I say Raw. I say she ends up on Raw, and I already think I'm wrong. That's fine. But I'm gonna stick with it just for shits and giggles. I think she'll end up on Raw, and and this is what I need to check to make sure. Bianca Belair would be a it would actually be like a display of sheer athleticism when it comes to that match. I could see her showing her skills to show the people that might not know her as how amazing she actually is as an athlete.
Okay, no, I see that as being a good match. It's a good test of skills and strength too. I will say, I will ask you this.
I just don't know if Bianca's on Raw.
I don't know if Bianca is even active right now.
Right.
I don't know if she. I forget. Is she off TV right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are off TV right now. And what happened to?
But I would say this: if it's not going to be Bianca, let's just play things here since I've already picked for 2 shows. If it's not going to be Bianca, I really think that, and it probably would be safe. It's business wise. I think it's dangerous. Okay, I'm going to say this off the bat right now. Business wise, it's dangerous.
Should you start with Bianca?
But no, not to Bianca. I'm saying, but I think that it would make sense if they threw her in there with Nia Jax.
Didn't Nia just get fired?
She came back right now.
I know.
Right?
I thought they downsized a lot. Hold on, I'm gonna look that up. But yes, I would agree if Nia is.
She literally just came back.
But Nia's dangerous though, man.
But see, that's why I say it's bad for business, because I'm like, again,
you don't want to.
I worry about the injuries. But here's the thing, though, like from a, and this is why I'm playing devil's advocate here. From a program standpoint, like promoting the feud,
yeah.
Nia also thinks she's a bad bitch. Mm-hmm. Nia's huge. Nia's like, that is supposed to be like the irresistible force, right? Mm-hmm. Well, like Jade could be the unstoppable object, you know, the one that like, because it would really test her strength to go against the bigger opponent.
Yeah, I can see.
So
she's still,
feud wise, like entertainment wise, I like it. As far as business and safety is concerned, it's a bit risky. I will admit that. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, though. Yeah, I think
if she was a better worker, if Nia was a safer worker, then I think that would be the feud to start with to give her the real. Real jump.
Anyway, that's for a whole other episode. We can talk about.
Because that's why I said they won't put her in with Ripley right now. Because right now, Nia is tied in with Ripley and with Raquel Rodriguez. They have like this 3-way feud going on right now, which I'm not sure where that's going, but
we'll see. Nia has been, she's got to really protect. I mean, she can do it. She's a big, strong woman. So it's like it's almost like she gets in her own way sometimes. The Becky Lynch thing, I can say it was an accident. It's not excusable, but it was genuinely an accident. But then it kept
not with Kairi Sane. That was just carelessness.
Right. All right. I say Bianca, and I just looked it up. Bianca is requested some time off from WWE, but it says it.
That's why I thought she might not.
So also it said it could be about a month.
Depends on when Jade comes in.
around.
But I do agree, eventually they should cross paths.
Yeah, maybe
even at some point win the tag team titles together. That would
be great. That would be. Okay, cool. So, episode 1, Legend of Wrestling.
in the books now, wrapped up.
Hopefully the video's still on.
Yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, or I will come to your house, break your back, and make you humble. Like, subscribe, you fucking jabroni.
And have a good day.
Fuck you and have a good day.
Break your back with the gear button. Fuck your ass. You don't like it. Break your back. You're the man.